Good evening to everyone. Just let me know once in the chat box that my voice is audible. Okay, thank you, sir, for your response in the chat box. So, let's start our discussion on this time of supply. So, in our last session, we have started the concept of time of supply and the importance of time of supply as well. Okay, section number 12. Number 12 is an indication of time. So, this section number 12 is related to time of supply. So, we are supplying. So, there may be chances that we are supplying the goods or services. When we are supplying the goods, there may be chances we are supplying under forward charge, under reverse charge. In case of services, the same is also applicable. So we have to determine the time of supply in different scenarios. Section number 12 is related to time of supply in case of goods. Section number 13 is related to time of supply in case of services. So, sir, the next section which we are going to start, that is also related to the time of supply. So whenever we learn the time of supply, the memory technique we have to learn in a bunch, you can say. Okay, the first section number 12 is the time of supply of goods, services, time of supply of services. And sir, section number 12 to section number 14 is with respect to time of supply. Okay, 12 is time of supply goods, time of supply of services, 13, and the section number 14, which is very important from consultancy perspective, from litigation perspective, and from departmental issues perspective. This section is very important. That is section number 14, time of supply in case of change in rate of tax. Time of supply in case of change in rate of tax. Sir, what do you mean by this? We have done two types of concepts in case of goods, in case of services. That is completely okay. But there may be chances, because on time to time basis, government is going to issue the rate notifications on account of multiple goods, multiple services. Okay, and we all know many times government is come up with the relaxation on a specific goods regarding the rate on account of services as well. So at that time, sir, at that time, when there is a change in rate of that particular goods or services on account of the rate notification, we have to decide that whether GST will be applicable as per the existing rate or as per the new applicable rate. And sir, that determination will always be based on your time of supply and the consultancy matters in this particular case. Because if we have no idea about the time of supply in case of change in rate of tax, and if we provided a wrong consultancy to our client and client had made the payment of taxes accordingly, then in near future there may be chances of litigations. Okay. So we have to be very much careful regarding this particular point, because this particular specific section is on account of consultancy only. So we'll decide certain scenarios and try to discuss this section. For next 10 to 15 minutes, I require your 100% attention on the screen. Okay, because this section is quite technical and quite important. Okay, so time of supply in case of change in rate of tax. Now, sir, there may be two situations in this particular section. First, change in rate of tax before supply. Sir, this same chapter is given on page number 123. Page number 123. But I request, don't open your book right now. Just you should focus on the example. After the discussion on example, we'll go through with the book as well. Okay, so that it will be very easy. So, change in rate before supply. And one is change in rate after supply. Okay, now basically you can say that, sir, in case of change in rate of tax before supply, that means change in rate of tax before supply means, suppose the person has made the supply on 16th of April 2025. And government has changed the rate of this specific product. Government has changed the rate of that specific product on 12th of April 2025. In that case, without referring the law or without reference of this section, as per your common sense, what will be the rate of GST applicable? Suppose earlier the GST was applicable on that specific product 18%. Okay. But from 12th of April 2025, government has implemented the rate of 28%. And taxpayer has made the supply after change. Okay. So you can say change in rate of tax before supply. Supply से पहले यहाँ पे rate में change हो गया. So what will be the rate of GST applicable? As per your common sense, 28%, because sir, rate has been changed by the government on 12th of April and the supply has been made on 16th of April. So, but obvious 28% rate should be applicable. Yes, exactly. You all are saying. Okay. Then second situation we have, that is, sir, change in rate after supply. Suppose supply has been made on 12th of April 2025. And at that time, the rate of GST was 18%. And government has changed the rate on 16th of April. Government has changed the rate on 16th of April and the rate becomes 28%. In that case, what will be the rate of GST applicable? Basically 18%. Everyone is saying 18%. Because yes, government has changed the rate. Okay. And supply has already been made before the change, so rate should be applicable as per the rate which is applicable in the current market. And if we have provided the consultancy to our client according to specific manner, in that case there may be chances that client will receive notice with a very huge amount in near future, because this decision of the applicability of rate is not based on common sense. It should be based on the provision of law, and provision is law is completely different from your common sense. We'll take the scenario in a detailed way and decide the time of supply. So first scenario I am going to take, sir, as you all have provided the response 28%, 18%. Now just check with reference to the provision of law and you will find there is a huge difference between your common sense and between the provision of law. And if we have provided that type of consultancy to our client in near future, there may be chances of a huge demand. Okay. So suppose the first situation, supply has been made on 12th of April 2025 and change in rate as on 16th of April 2025. Okay. And two more details I am providing you. Invoice date. Invoice date. The taxpayer has issued the invoice with the date of 11th of April 2025. Okay. And the payment date, when the payment has been made, is your 17th of April 2025. In such a scenario, supply has already been made on 12th of April. Invoice date is 11th of April and payment date is 17th of April. That means after the change in rate of tax, because change has already been done on 16th of April. So in that case, government has given the principle that when the supply has already been made before the change in rate of tax, and invoice is also the prior date, that is before the change in rate, and the payment has after the change in rate of tax, in such a scenario will take the time of supply as invoice date. And yes, in that case, your rate of GST will be applicable at the rate of 18%. Okay. Now, Second situation, sir, all the situations, if it is possible for you, in that case you can make note of it, okay, in your book, because there may be chances that you will got certain confusions through this example. Okay, so try to write it down, because total we have 6 scenarios through this section number 14, and I will give you each by each, and we may repeat the example after completion of all the 3 scenarios. Okay, so second scenario, sir, yes, supply date is 12th of April, change date is your 16th of April, payment has already been received in advance, payment has already been received in advance. So in that case, if you have received the payment, suppose on 14th of April 2024, and the invoice has issued as on invoice has issued as on 18th of April. Now you can say, sir, without invoice how we can make the supply of the goods? Sir, supply can be made under challan, sent or approval basis, and the approval has been sent on 18th of April. So invoice has been created on 18th of April, but the payment has already been received in advance, because if you didn't like the goods, you will get the refunds. But in this situation, the client has accepted the goods and invoice has generated on 18th of April. In such a scenario, as the supply has already been made before the change in rate of tax, hence the time of supply will be your payment date, that is 14th April 2025. Accordingly, the rate of GST will be applicable at the rate of 18%. That is the rate which is applicable prior to change. Third situation, because in these two situations you all are correct. Okay, third situation, supply, yes, 12th of April, change in rate of tax, yes, 16th of April. Suppose the payment has been received on 18th of April and invoice has been generated on 17th of April. That means invoice or payment both are after the change in rate of tax. In such a scenario, as per section number 14, your time of supply will be invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. That means 17th of April or 18th of April, whichever is earlier, that is 17th of April will be treated as your time of supply. And in this situation, although you have made the supply on 12th of April, but rate of GST will be applicable, the rate which is applicable as on 17th of April, because the time of supply is invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. So your rate of GST will be 17th of April, effective rate, that is 28%. So in that case, if we have provided the advisory to our client that you should charge the GST at the rate of 18%, so after a certain amount of time, the departmental authority will issue the notice that, sir, you have decided the wrong rate and time of supply. Sir, this example is okay for everyone, or I have to take one another example and repeat the concept? Just let me know once. Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, why not we are taking the date of supply? Because, sir, invoice is a very specific document. When we'll discuss on section number 31, invoicing done, at that time we'll done this specific type of concept that invoicing plays a very important role in determination of your time of supply. So when you have made the invoice or payment, both are after the change in rate of tax, in that case your time of supply will be determined based on your invoice or payment, because both the activities are after that date. Okay, that means you have made the supply on the basis of goods sent and approval, and you have not received the payment, so your actual supply should be made after the change in rate of tax, because both the element invoice or payment are after, so it should be taken care. Now, sir, Same example, I am just going to change the date and I just want to explain you. Okay, change in rate on 27th of May. Okay, and supply has already been made on 25th of May. Okay, in that case we have total three scenarios. Try to understand. We have total three scenarios. First scenario, suppose the invoice has already been issued on 24th of May and the payment has been received as on 29th of May. In such a scenario, invoice is prior to change in rate of tax, so you can take it as invoice date. Okay. Second, suppose the invoice date is 29th of May and payment has already been received on prior. Suppose the payment has already been received on 24th of May. In that case, you will take your payment date, okay, as time of supply. Or suppose your invoice date is 28th of May and payment date is 29th of May. That is, invoice or payment both are after the change on rate of tax. So I or P, whichever is earlier, invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. So your 28th of May will be treated as time of supply, and the rate of GST which is applicable on 28th of May, that will be treated as your effective rate, that is 28%. Now, sir, can you provide any golden principle for that so that we can memorize? Yes, definitely. Sir, whenever there will be a specific situation in which supply has made before the change in rate of tax, okay, your client is coming to your office and saying that, sir, in this particular product the rate of GST has been changed by government from 27th of May and I have made the supply on 25th of May. In such a scenario, your one line principle rule is, in this situation, whatever will be your scenario, your invoice or payment, whichever is earlier, that will be applicable. You can check all the three situations. In that case, your invoice is earlier, you are taking it as a time of supply. In this case, your payment is earlier, you are taking that payment date as your time of supply. And in this situation, both are after the change in rate of tax, then also we are taking the concept invoice or payment, whichever is earlier, will be treated as time of supply. So this is the golden principle in case supply has already been made before change in rate of tax. Sir, everyone, let me know now this golden principle and the complete concept is okay for you? Okay, sir. Let's start our discussion on the second scenario. Okay. And the second scenario is also interesting. Second scenario is also interesting. Supply date as on 27th of May and change in rate of tax as on 25th of May. Okay, that means government has changed the rate. After that, the person is going to make the supply. In that case, the first scenario is that suppose the invoice date is as on 24th of May. The invoice has been generated on as on 24th of May, that is before change in rate of tax. But the payment has been received on 27th of May. So in that case, the time of supply will be your payment date, that is 27th of May. Accordingly, the rate of GST which is applicable as on 27th of May, that is 28%, which will be applicable. So you can also learn a golden principle in this situation. Whenever there will be a supply after the change in rate of tax, in that case, the golden principle to determine the time of supply is I or P, whichever is latter, invoice or payment, whichever is latter, that will be treated as time of supply. So in this case also we have taken the payment date, because invoice is on 24th of May and payment is on 27th of May. So we are taking the 27th of May as a date. Next scenario, in which also will test the upper golden principle. Okay. Suppose in the same case, your invoice date is 27th of May, that is after the change in rate of tax, but payment is on 24th of May. In that case, your time of supply will be invoice or payment, whichever is later, that is 27th of May. But suppose, sir, but suppose your change in rate of tax is 25th of May, your supply date is 27th of May, your invoice date is 23rd of May and payment date is 24th of May. That means invoice or payment both are prior to change in rate of tax and supply has been made after the change in rate of tax. In that case, your principal is going to change. In that case, I or P, whichever is earlier, that will be the principal. So 23rd of May will be treated as time of supply. The reason being, because in that case, if you will take I or P, whichever is later, in that case also, both are prior to the change in rate of tax. So rate will be the same. Okay. And both are prior to the change, hence government has come up with the concept I or P, whichever is earlier. So we have conclusively total 6 scenarios. In case of goods and services, both have been supplied before the change in rate of tax. In such a scenario, invoice or payment both are after the change, so I or P, whichever is earlier. If invoice issued prior to change but payment received after change, in that case invoice date. If payment received prior change but invoice is after change, in that case receipt of payment will be treated as time of supply. And the second scenario, in case of goods and services have been supplied after the change in rate of tax, in that case, if the payment is after the change in rate of tax but invoice is prior, in that case your payment will be time of supply, whichever is later. Second situation, if payment and invoice both are prior to change in rate of tax, so I or P, whichever is earlier. If payment received prior to change but invoice after the change, so your invoice date will be treated as time of supply. Sir, the concept of section number 14 is okay for everyone, and sir, this section is very important from practical perspective, because the normal situation, in that case you can say the time of supply we can decide based on invoice, based on the concept of reverse charge mechanism, but in this situation you have to use certain technical points of the law, and accordingly you have to decide the time of supply. And in this situation, if you have made any incorrect decision and if you have provided any wrong consultancy to your client, so there may be chances of a very huge demand in future. So regarding documentation, we'll discuss at the time of our discussion on section number 33, mandatory documents on the fields on invoices and mandatory documents as well. Okay. So just wait for 2 to 3 more days, we'll discuss. Now, we have done the complete concept of time of supply. Total 3 sections we have done. First, section number 12, time of supply in case of goods. 13, time of supply in case of services, and 14, time of supply in case of change in rate of tax. The section number 14 is very interesting and very important. Now, sir, we are starting the next concept, which is also very interesting and again very important for all of us. Sir, we have decided that this particular activity or transaction is a supply. Just I am creating a tree for you. We have decided that this particular activity or transaction is a supply. So first we have to create as an activity or transaction. After that, the same will be treated as supply. After determination that it is a supply, then we have to determine that it is a supply of goods or supply of services. That also we have decided. After determination that it is a supply of goods or supply of services, we have to work that it is a composite supply or mixed supply. After working on the composite and mixed supply, we have to work that whether the GST will be applicable under forward charge or reverse charge, or we have to determine it as a regular person or composition person. Then after we have to determine whether any service is or goods is exempted or not, or if the same is not exempted, then by which time we have to pay the taxes. So that is my time of supply. Now question is that, sir, we have decided it is a supply, it is a supply of goods or services, it is a composite or mixed supply, whether it is exempted or not. Now we have decided the time of supply. Now question is that, sir, on which value we have to make the payment of GST. So what will be the value of supply? That is what is the most important thing. Because if you have decided the value of supply wrongly, so departmental authority may come up in future that, sir, at that time you have decided the value 1 lakh rupees, but as per the provision the value should be 1,50,000 rupees. So on 50,000 rupees pay interest, penalty and tax. So that will be a situation which will be very critical for all of us. Okay. So we should learn the concepts of value of supply, and we'll discuss on this value of supply in a very practical way. To this particular value of supply, we are just going to fix the value. We are just going to fix the value, that on which value you have to make the payment of GST. Suppose they have fixed a value of 1 lakh rupees, so you have to make the payment of GST on that 1 lakh rupees. If the rate is at the rate of 18%, so 1 lakh multiplied by 18%, so 18,000 will be GST, taxable value will be 1 lakh, invoice value will be taxable value plus GST, that is 1,18,000 rupees. Now, sir, just look on number 15. First, I am going to discuss the memory technique, then we'll discuss the concept of this section. Just look on number 15. Sir, 1 plus 5 is equal to 6. That is value fixed. Just try to link the word. Section number 15. Whenever you look on number 15, 1 plus 5 is equal to 6. That is value fixed. So this section is on account of valuation under GST. And I request those sections which we are covering in our daily session, and we are covering the memory techniques. So you just need to revise these sections so that it will be there in your brain and you can use it in your future communication with the department. So if the goods has been returned by that particular person, in such a scenario, if you are putting the invoice reference number and the return is on account of that return, in that case you can charge the same rate. Okay, because you have availed the input tax credit on that particular figure, so this will be treated as your purchase return. Okay, but if you are creating a sales invoice, in that case, yes, but obvious, your rate of GST will be the revised rate. Okay, so we have to decide it accordingly. Section reference 1 plus 5, 6, value fixed. Okay, now government has given a very specific definition that your transaction value, that means a value on which your transaction is going to happen, your transaction value will become taxable value. Your transaction value will become your taxable value. Just two conditions you have to fulfill. One, buyer and supplier are not the related party and price is the sole consideration. Okay, buyer and supplier, not related party, and price is the sole consideration. Price is the sole consideration. Sir, can you please give us one example? Yes, definitely. Suppose I want a mobile phone. So I visited the Reliance Digital and I have bought one mobile phone of 80,000 rupees. Okay, I have bought one mobile phone of 80,000 rupees. In that case, me and Mukesh Ambani, no relationship is there. Okay, so buyer and supplier are not related party. And price is the sole consideration. That means I have only given that 80,000 rupees to Reliance Digital, not a single rupee exceeding that, and I have not provided any other monetary benefits. So in that case, you can say the price is the sole consideration and buyer and supplier are not the related party. I and Mukesh Ambani is not the related party, and the price is the sole consideration. So that 80,000 rupees for which I have bought that particular mobile phone, that 80,000 will be treated as transaction value, and the same will become your taxable value, and Reliance Digital is going to charge the GST on that 80,000 rupees. Now, there may be one question in your brain that, sir, what will be the use to determine the time of supply and how we can cross verify the time of supply when we are receiving the return of our client? Sir, the point is that when you are receiving the returns of your client, or when you are analyzing the financial statement on quarterly basis, on a half yearly basis for your client, at that time in normal situations, the transaction value will become the taxable value. Whatever will be the value for which the transaction has placed, the same will be treated as your taxable value. But if you found any specific situation in which buyer and supplier are related party, or price is not a sole consideration, there is any other thing, at that time you have to raise the questions and you have to provide the details related to the valuation. So the question is that we should have the basic idea that in which scenario the normal principle is applicable, and in other scenarios the special provision is applicable. So transaction value will become the taxable value, price is the sole consideration, buyer and supplier are not related party. Suppose for making the supply of that mobile phone, Reliance Digital has made certain expenditure. Suppose for that 80,000 mobile phone, Reliance Industry has made an expenditure on packing, suppose 1,000 rupees. Okay. Reliance Industry has made an expenditure of packing, suppose 1,000 rupees. In that case, question is that whether the 1,000 rupee will become the part of taxable value? Yes, definitely. If there is any expenditure in relation to that particular supply, whether it is a packing, whether it is a loading, whether it is an unloading expenditure, or any other taxation other than your CGST, SGST, UTGST, if applicable, in that case the same will become the part of your value. And sir, when you are analyzing the financial statement and you are checking any expenditure which is booked by the taxpayer in the books of accounts, at that time we have to check that this expenditure is related to a particular supply, and if the same is related to a particular supply, we have to ask our client, you have added this to the taxable value and paid the GST? Because if that 1,000 rupees has been booked separately, in that case the person is going to pay GST on 80,000 only, but this particular expenditure is on account of that supply only, so that should become part of your supply, and GST should be paid on 81,000 rupees. So we just need to take care of the same, that if there will be any additional expenditure on account of your supply, loading, unloading, direct, indirect, the same will become of your part of value. Next example. Suppose I have bought one equipment. I have bought one equipment from Manita Polyfab. Suppose the worth is 10 lakh rupees. I have bought one equipment from Manita Polyfab. The value is 10 lakh rupees. And Manita Polyfab has also made the expenditure on the transportation of that product 50,000 rupees, total 10 lakh 50,000. In that case, a GST will be applicable on 10 lakh 50,000 rupees. Okay. Now, there is a slight change in this particular example, and the change is, suppose I had paid that transportation expenditure, that 50,000 rupees has been paid by Mr. Sachin. But as per the agreement, the liability is on Manita Polyfab. Okay. But I had make the payment of this 50,000 rupees. So in that case, Manita Polyfab is going to book 10 lakh rupees in the books of accounts. Now question is that whether GST will be applicable on 10 lakh rupees or 10 lakh 50,000 rupees. Just let me know in the chat box. Sir, this particular 50,000 is the responsibility of supplier, but the same has been paid by the buyer. Okay. In that case, on which value the GST will be applicable? On 10 lakh or 10 lakh 50,000? Mixed opinion are there. Some are saying that 10 lakh 50,000 rupees. Some are saying that 10 lakh rupees. Yes, it is the obligation of supplier. Okay. So if there is any expenditure which is prima facie responsibility of the buyer, but the same has been beared by the recipient, in such a scenario that expenditure will also become the part of the value of supply. So the expenditure which has been paid by Mr. Sachin, the same will be included in the value of supply, and Manita Polyfab has to pay GST at the rate of 18% on 10 lakh 50,000 rupees. That will be treated as value of supply. That thing we have to keep in our mind. Sir, how we can identify these type of things from the books of accounts? That is the question. So the answer is 10 lakh rupees. If we'll include it in 50,000 rupees, then 10 lakh 50,000 rupees. But sir, question is that now when Mr. Sachin is going to make the payment to Manita, at that time Mr. Sachin is going to make the payment for 10 lakh only, because 50,000 has already been paid by Mr. Sachin directly. So in that case, you have to pass the adjustment entries. So you have to check that the adjustment entry has been passed or not for that 50,000 rupees which has been paid by the buyer on behalf of supplier. Because you will receive the amount as 10 lakh only, 50,000 you have to pass the journal entry. Sir, I have just taken the example of the transportation. You can change the example from transportation. Suppose there is a licensing expenditure which has been done by the buyer, but the same is the responsibility of the supplier. In that case, also the same will become part. And if the delivery is from supplier place, in that case, no question of any transportation. So, not at all GST on that particular thing. So the question is that I have just taken the example of a component. You can check with any component which is the prima facie responsibility of supplier, but the same has been paid by recipient. The same will become part of your value of supply. That is what is the thing we have to keep in our mind. Three things we have learned through this section number 15. One is your transaction value will become taxable value if buyer and supplier are not the related party and price is the sole consideration. Second thing, if there will be any expenditure with relation to that particular supply, the same will become part of your value of supply. And third thing we have done, if there is any expenditure or any amount which is the responsibility of the supplier, but the same has been paid by recipient, in that case also that expenditure will become part of your value of supply. These three things we have done. Now, sir, aapne bola that your transaction value will become taxable value if buyer and supplier are not the related party and price is the sole consideration. But sir, suppose, socho na, sir, you are going for a wrong interpretation regarding the reverse charge mechanism. Under reverse charge mechanism, on account of freight, they have given that the recipient is liable to make the payment of GST under reverse charge mechanism. In that case, the recipient is GTA providing to the supplier, because supplier is the recipient of the transportation services. So the RCM should be paid by supplier. not the recipient of supplier. Don't confuse in the word recipient. Here recipient means the recipient of the service. So in case of GTA, the recipient of service will be supplier only. Okay. I think Gurmeet sir, now this point is okay for you. Now, sir, you are saying that buyer and supplier are not the related party and price is the sole consideration. Then the transaction value will become taxable value. Okay, agree. But sir, socho na. Suppose price is not the sole consideration. Price is not sole consideration. What is the example? Suppose I want to buy one laptop. I want to buy one laptop from market. And for buying that particular laptop, what I have done, suppose I want to buy one laptop. So I have visited Jain Infotech for buying the mobile phone, for buying the laptop. I have visited the Jain Infotech. Okay. And I communicated my requirement to Jain Infotech that I required a laptop. Okay. So Jain Infotech is going to supply me a laptop. And we both have decided that for this laptop, I will provide 15,000 cash to Jain Infotech, and I have one printer. I have one printer. So I will provide that printer to Jain Infotech. So for that particular laptop, what I am going to pay to Jain Infotech, that is 15,000 in cash and one printer. Now question is that what will be the transaction value? Because me and Jain Infotech, not the related party, but price is not the sole consideration. The amount 15,000 is not the sole consideration because I am also providing the printer. So while filing the GSTR 3B return, whether we'll show 15,000 plus printer, is that possible? No. We have to decide a value. So how we can decide the value? That is what is the question. So for that purpose, government has developed a certain valuation rules. If you are not able to decide the value through the sections, in that case, you can go with the rules. Sir, whether you are learning the GST law or income tax law or companies law or labor law or any other law, you will find sections as well as rules. So what is the difference between section and rules? Section always talks about that what to do. Am I right? Because this section number 15 is saying if the buyer and supplier are not the related party and price is the sole consideration, your transaction value will be treated as taxable value. That is what is the provision you have to follow. But rules will always guide you how to do. Kaise karna hai. So sections are here to give you the instruction what to do. And rules are here to guide us that how we can do that particular type of things. So that is what is the difference between section and the rules. Okay. So now we have one specific rule, and that rule deals with the situation in which price is not the sole consideration. Okay, like this. So in that case, this particular rule is saying that you can take first option. You have the first option. You can take the open market value. Suppose the same laptop is available in the market and the price is 40,000 rupees. So this rule is saying that you can take the transaction value or taxable value as 40,000 rupees and you can pay GST on that 40,000 rupees because this is the market price. But suppose if the market price is not available in the market, because that laptop is not available in the market, in that case, how we can decide? So this rule is saying that the 15,000 which you are receiving in cash, and if you have the market value, of that printer. Suppose the printer which I have provided to Jain Infotech is of 25,000 rupees. In that case, this rule is saying that you can decide the cash plus the monetary value of the item which you are providing, that is 40,000 rupees. Now I have raised my concern that, sir, the monetary value of printer is not available with me. In that case, how I can decide the value of supply? So for that purpose, they have given an alternate option again, that you can do if the similar type of laptop is available in the market. If the similar type of laptop is available in the market. Similar means all the features are similar, like kind, like quality, and like quantity. Suppose I have buy the one laptop only and I am going to compare with 50 laptops. It is not possible, because for a bulk buy, there will be a difference in the price. So if the similar laptop is available in the market, in that case, same kind, same quality, same quantity, you can take the value of that. Suppose the similar type of laptop is available in the market for 35,000. So if I am not able to decide the open market value or the money plus monetary consideration, in that case, I have third option, that I can take the similar laptop price. Now I have raised the concern with the government that, madam, open market value is not available, money plus monetary is also not available, and the similar laptop is also not available. This is one and only. So the similar laptop is also not available. How I can decide the value, and on which value I have to pay the GST? That is what is the question. So in that case, madam said, now my audio is, am I audible? Okay, sir. Some are saying that I am audible, some are saying that I am not audible. Am I audible, sir? Now battery of my speaker is done, completed. Okay, thank you. So if I'm not able to decide the value through the normal section, in that case, in case of price is not the sole consideration, in that case, you can decide the value as per the open market value. Suppose the open market value is 40,000 rupees. If the open market value is not available, in that case, money plus monetary consideration. And if the money plus monetary consideration is also not available, in such a scenario, I can go with this similar, like this similar kind, quality and quantity. And if the same is not available, in that case, government is saying that Mr. Sachin will provide you one master rule to determine the value of supply. And the master rule they have given, rule number 30 or 31, and the rule which we have covered is rule number 27. Okay, this is the first rule, which talks about that if you are not able to decide the value as per the normal principle, and price is not the sole consideration, in that case, you have to decide the value as per open market value or money plus monetary consideration, or like kind, quality, quantity. And if you are not able to decide through these three parameters, in that case, we'll decide through the master rule, rule number 30, 31. This is my rule number 27. In our next session, we'll discuss that how you can decide the value in case of the related party. Okay, buyer and supplier are the related party. Suppose I am transferring the goods to my sister concern. how we can decide the value, and also we'll discuss in case of principal and agent how we can decide the value. Also we'll discuss what is the master key for decide the value when no rule is applicable. In that case also how we can decide the value of supply, and we'll also decide that how the value will be decided in case of foreign exchange, how the value will be decided for the insurance agents, how the value will be decided in case of domestic and international fare by the air travel agency, the make my trip, how they are deciding the value. That is what is the important thing, that also we'll discuss. We'll also discuss that how you can decide the value in case of second-hand goods, how you can decide the value in case of pure agent. All these things we are going to cover in our next session tomorrow sharp at 7 p.m. So I request each one of you, please be there sharp at 7 p.m. and we'll also start our discussion on the heart of GST, that is input tax credit, in our tomorrow session. Sir, the channel name is, if you will search on YouTube, CA Sachin Jain, in that case, you will found. Okay. Otherwise, consult with Batuk. Consult with Batuk. This is the name of my YouTube channel. And sir, whatever will be your feedback for our last 6 classes, and today is the 7th class. If it is possible for you, you can put it in the chat box. Any suggestion for the improvements, any feedback, you can put it in the chat box. You have just 2 to 3 minutes, and then after I have to leave for the session. Today I have some urgent work. Yes, sir, we'll discuss. Anandan sir will discuss that how the section will link with rules, as like section number 15 is linked with rule number 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So thank you everyone for your valuable feedback in the chat box. We'll meet on tomorrow sharp at 7 p.m. So I request be there online sharp at 7 p.m. Thank you once again. Bye bye. Good night. Take care.